Okay, calling the August 25th, 2021 Independent Redistricting Commission meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll begin the roll call. Honorable Elizabeth Allen White.
Present.
Honorable Abraham Kahn.
Present.
Honorable Melinda A. Johnson.
Present.
Thank you. And we'll move on to any changes to the agenda, Mr. Colon?
No.
No, Honorable Chair.
Okay, and public comment. We do not have any attendees at this time, so no public comment. And we'll move on to approval of minutes.
I move to approve the minutes as submitted to each of the members.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved. I have had a chance to review them while we've been sitting here, so thank you. They are approved.
Okay, we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, report on final civic engagement and outreach plan for redistricting. Sarah Isa will be giving us the presentation today.
Good evening, Honorable Commissioners. I'm Sarah Isa, Senior Planner in Public Works. I'll be presenting the proposed civic engagement and outreach plan tonight. Next slide, please. I wanted to start with a quote that we began the last presentation with from the California Secretary of State's office. What is electoral redistricting? Redistricting is the once-in-a-decade process of redrawing the political boundaries for elective offices after the U.S. Census. Next slide, please. Tonight we have a draft civic engagement plan, and the primary purpose is to maximize community participation. Next slide, please. So what is the civic engagement and outreach plan? We looked at a couple of other examples from different cities and synthesized some goals and objectives and strategies to maximize civic engagement. So this outreach plan describes tools and strategies to maximize public participation in the redistricting process and includes multiple strategies based on the goals and objectives, which I will describe next. Next slide, please. The goals and objectives include encouraging public participation through the use of a variety of outreach tools, which I will describe. We will involve traditionally underrepresented and marginalized communities, of course, and we will design workshops to be inclusive both culturally and ability-wise, and we will proactively seek public participation. Next slide, please. So for community outreach, we will provide meeting information, which I will describe the meetings proposed, to many relevant community organizations. We will also be drafting digital flyers and meeting information in both Spanish and English as required. We will provide background and mapping tools on the website and publish this information widely. And then we will have regular posts on social media. We do Twitter, Facebook, and Nextdoor. And we will also provide city emails to community organizations and a broad list of stakeholders that we have. Next slide, please. We will also have media releases, paid print advertising. We will also place updates in our city news and brief, which is a city-wide email or it goes out to interested parties throughout the city. I believe it's once a week. And we will also have sandwich boards in the community, which will display the information about the meetings. We will have 2 in each district in high traffic areas. And this is something that I've seen in the city of Goleta, and it's been pretty effective. Next slide, please. So within the civic engagement plan, we talk about 8 public hearings, which would begin September 20th, 2021, and would end March 14th, 2022. Due to COVID, the first two hearings we plan to be virtual. The first hearing would be on September 20th and would include an introduction of the IRC to the public, as well as the mapping tools, the process, and the timeline. And then the second hearing would occur in October and would also be virtual for now. And it would include a training for the public on mapping tools and introduce the preliminary first maps to the public. Next slide, please. And then meetings 2 through 8 would be within the individual districts. So districts 1 through 6, they would begin after the holidays once the public has had a chance to review the information. The first one would be in District 6 on January 8th, and the meetings would end on March 14th in District 6. I'm sorry, District 1 for January 8th. All meetings would be in the evening or weekend, and they will either be held in person or virtually, dependent on COVID. We're planning for in person, but we're ready to pivot to virtual if needed. Next slide, please. Also, all meetings will be recorded and posted online and would have Spanish and ASL interpretation available. And we will also have childcare and refreshments, culturally appropriate refreshments provided. And this will all culminate in the final council adoption hearing on April 12th, 2022, which is prior to the April 17th, 2022 deadline. Next slide, please. So this may be hard to read, but it is in the attachment in the staff report. It's a summary of the proposed meetings with the dates, the times. You can see they are all in the evening or on the weekend, as well as the locations. And we've been working with city staff to secure these locations. They are easy to access public locations, as well as an idea of the refreshments to be provided. Next slide, please. The attachment also includes a summary of anticipated costs, and because we're not sure if some of these meetings will be virtual or in person, we provided an estimate for both. But in summary, the cost per virtual meeting is $675, and for in-person, it's $1,050. And the difference is the cost for the refreshments and securing the venues. So the total estimate for the 8 meetings, with the 2 first ones virtual and the 6 following in person, is $8,415, and that includes a 10% contingency, which is something common we do with contracts here in Public Works. Next slide.
Do you think that there will be there'll be cost in securing the venues?
Yes, ma'am. So for the school, a couple of the venues are school district venues, and they do charge a small amount, as well as the city venues. They're owned by Parks and Recreation, and they do charge. It's a very small fee, but it's around $100 to $200 per meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
I'll turn to the panel as I'm a little bit learning along with you. Any questions?
No questions.
None.
Mr. Colon has his hand up.
Thank you. If I might, we have the good fortune of having a new interim city administrator, Rebecca Bjork, and she has asked that I come to the city council on September 14th to share the results of your meeting today on this plan. I wanted to say, though, that as to the locations, I expect to let the city council members have some say if they think other locations ought to be explored. So that part might change, but we have done our level best to nail down the dates for a lot of reasons.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Now we also have our demographers available to discuss an update on the receipt of the census data and just to provide for you all a little bit of a understanding as to where we are in that process.
I'm not seeing them. I don't know how to open up I'm only seeing 5 of us. There we go, Dr. Johnson. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and Dr. Phillips is here too. He's actually going to do the presentation. We just had our cameras off.
Oh, all right, okay.
So,
Dr. Phillips, good afternoon to you as well.
Daniel,
Please
you
go
want to do that? Yeah.
Ready when you are.
Oh, you're muted, Daniel.
Sorry, I'm not used to, I'm used to Zoom. Okay, so good to be with you this evening. And what I'm going to show you is an update on the census figures that were just collected and released. Now, I want to preface my remarks with the caveat that this data is not the official redistricting data because we're still waiting on the statewide database to process these census counts and reallocate prisoner populations to their last known residential address. And so that will cause the figures I'm about to show you to shift slightly. We don't expect it to be very substantial, but there might be some small variations from the numbers that we have right now. But what we have now is what the census has released, and that was a couple weeks ago now. And then the state has said it will take about 4 to 6 weeks to process that census data and release its official redistricting data. So given that about 2 weeks has passed, we're hoping that that will happen in about 2 to 3 weeks from now. So let me see if I can share my my screen. I'm sorry, I'm just not used to this this format here.
One moment, I can help you out with that.
Okay, thank you.
Daniel, that's music to those of us over 50 to hear you saying.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'm gonna, okay, so now I have the option to show my screen. And let's find, can you see an Excel spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this data is citywide. So we don't quite yet have the data district by district for the current city council districts, but we will plan to have that to show at the September 20th commission meeting. But we have the citywide figures here, and you can see that in 2010, the census showed a population of 88,410. And in 2020, it was 88,665. So just barely an increase over those 10 years. Now, if we look within that total, you'll see that the racial ethnic breakdown is 34,344 Hispanics, which would be 39% of the city's population. 45,882 non-Hispanic whites, which are 52%. And then we have smaller numbers of non-Hispanic Blacks and Asian Americans, 2 and 5% respectively. So that is among the total population. So that includes children, that includes non-citizens. What this next series of rows is showing is among the citizen voting age population. And that is just looking at those who are eligible to vote. that population is 63,600. Now, this is an estimate from the American Community Survey. This is not something that the decennial census actually collected, but it is the most recent up-to-date data that we have for we call it CVAP. And this this data is what courts have decided is the most important when it comes to satisfying the Federal Voting Rights Act. And so just looking within that 63,600 total, the proportion who are non-Hispanic whites are 43,538. And the proportion who are Hispanics are 15,367. So you see, as opposed to 39 and 52, with the total population, you have 24 versus 68 with the citizen voting age population, and similar numbers of Blacks and Asians. So those are the top line numbers that we have for you at the outset. We have other data as well that might be of interest, such as voter registration and voter turnout from the most recent presidential election. And we have demographics for age, immigration, language spoken at home, language fluency, education, the amount of people who have children in the household, and those who are employed who are 16 years or older, household income, and housing stats. So happy to answer any questions you might have about any of this data.
Judge Khan, you look like you were about to speak.
Well, it's district-wide data is what I'm hearing. And so it's, I think if we knew to the extent that they can be correlated back into the districts as they exist now, that might generate, some questions, but otherwise I'm just absorbing the information.
I just had a point of curiosity, and you may not know. Is there any significant change between either the total population numbers or the voting age population between 2010 and 2020? Do we have those 10-year-old figures just to see what changes there might have been?
Well, you'll see here, this figure is for 2010 and this figure is for 2020. So it's very, very small change in the
total population. I was looking for the mix, Hispanic, non-Hispanic, white, and so forth. Of those percentages changed over the last 10 years. You may not have that at your fingertips. I just wondered.
I don't have that information in this table, but we have it in another location, and it's very similar. So these numbers have not changed much at all.
All right. Thank you. Anything else?
That's all the information I had. Dr. Johnson, do you have anything to add?
Nope, that was good.
Okay.
Thank you both. And so our next meeting is set for the September 20th hearing. And so I wanted to check in and see if there's anything else that you would like for us to discuss, either maybe in a different meeting before then, or what you're looking forward to for that September 20th meeting.
I have a question. I noted that in the materials, it was a virtual meeting. My understanding was that the commissioners were to be in person, correct?
So we have had discussions regarding what would be best given the ongoing developments of COVID, and have decided to switch to a virtual meeting. I think that if the commissioners feel comfortable with that, it would be best to also have you all attend virtually. Are there any thoughts on that?
Absolutely understandable. I just was not aware that it had changed, but I appreciate why it changed, and I appreciate that it will be virtual.
I had the same question because I had it at 6 o'clock in person the night of the 20th, and I was shuffling things around. But if it's going to be virtual, it'll be easier, of course. But
there are, if I might, there are a couple of just pure administrative limitations. One, it's really difficult with this unusual software we have to do hybrid meetings. And secondly, as we understand the rules now, the commissioners would be required to wear masks while they were present together, which makes for an unfortunate visual.
I think we've been able to convince a lot of people to do our hearings virtually because otherwise we're all screaming at each other without our faces showing in person. It's not satisfying for anyone.
I have to say though, and I think Ms. Zisa addressed this, it would be very unfortunate to have to do the district meetings this way. It doesn't, well, anyway, that's the staff preference would be to do those face-to-face if possible.
I think we mentioned that the commissioners would rather be in person if it's feasible. Is there a historical turnout that we would be talking about? Do these generate 100 people, 6 people? Anything we can predict about that?
I cannot. During the last process, it was activated by litigation and pretty broad community interest. If the data are as flat as we might improperly infer from what Dr. Phillips said, we'll have to work to get people involved. But we won't know that until a couple of meetings from now.
Okay.
I do want to add that I previously spoke with someone who was working at the city during the 2015 districting process. And of course, as Mr. Colonna has mentioned, that was definitely activated by the litigation at the time. However, their attendees would range from about 40 individuals to 60 individuals. I think that another event that's going on that could impact turnout is also the election. So we have an election season coming up this fall, and I think that that could also affect where people decide to put their greater attention at least. But we do expect hopefully to get more public engagement in the new year, especially given the ability of the public to utilize the tools for online mapping.
Okay. Okay, and so all the individual district meetings will be after the start of the new year, right? So that should help.
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Any other questions from the commission?
No.
No, thank you.
Anything else that the commission would like to have in advance of the September 20th meeting? Other than this time, I will search more diligently for the materials, but anything in particular? Mr. Colon?
Thank you, Your Honor. I wanted to say, and perhaps Ms. Sosa Acosta can help me with this, the legal criteria paper that we distributed was meant to be a preliminary look. While Ms. Leone's on the line, I want to at least lay out my thought that as the facts present themselves, the commission may well require deeper briefing. And we're certainly ready, willing, and able to take that on. So if on further reflection between now and September 20th, the preliminary review that we prepared needs tuning, let us know and we can start that process.
Okay. Thank you.
I will say that the redistricting criteria and legal requirements that were put forward in the August 25 agenda report were most helpful.
Yeah, I concur.
I'll vote a little later. Sorry. I promise I will read it. It's part of the undiagnosed OCD, but I will read it, and I apologize for not having been able to do so in advance.
I think it was well put together, and you know, I went back and forth between fair maps and looking at what was being proposed, and certainly as a way to try and cross-reference and check that some of the major items that were of concern and what we were going to do today, the civic engagement and outreach plan had been addressed, and I agree. I think you went well beyond what fair maps appeared to require. And I applaud the effort and thank you very much for the research tools that we could use to help us in our job. I think you've all done an excellent job and I truly appreciate it.
So
Thank
for
you.
future, and I concur all the way along the line. Everything has been so well laid out for us. For future agendas, between now and September 20th, we're basically leave it to any member of the commission who would like some additional briefing to let us know. And if that comes up, we will arrange a quick conference like this, correct? All right.
Honorable Johnson, we have a member of the public who raised their hand. Shall we go back to public comment?
Absolutely.
Okay, one moment. Okay, Lindsay Baker, I have unmuted you.
Good evening, honorable commissioners. My name's Lindsay Baker and I'm with the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara. I would like to emphasize transparency in your procedures and also emphasize community engagement. Regarding community engagement, we would appreciate if your meetings would be on the Santa Barbara City website. It was difficult for me to find your meetings. So we would appreciate if they were listed on the city calendar and on the website to have real community engagement. I would also like to announce that the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara is having a community forum on September 15th on redistricting in Santa Barbara County in the city of Santa Barbara. It will be at 12 o'clock and you can register for the forum at lwvsantabarbara.org. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for the work of the League. I'm not sure I understood about the website and the agenda. Is there something additional that can be done as far as giving notice based on Ms. Baker's comments?
Yes, Your Honor. I made notes. We'll follow up and make sure both those additional notices take place.
Thank you. All right. Anything else on behalf of the city that we should be handling today before we adjourn?
Just a quick question. Ms. Baker mentioned a September 15 meeting for the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara in connection with the redistricting. And I'm wondering to what extent someone will be present to hear what they have to say.
I'm probably the likely suspect. I believe that more attention is going to be focused on the county process at this point. But as you, I think, understood with your comments, Judge Johnson, the league is our friend in civic engagement.
Yes, definitely. I would just agree with what was just said, that our understanding is that conference is about all the redistricting going on in the county. So it's both the county effort. I suspect they'll be talking about the state effort as well. And then, as you may know, I believe every city in the county is now either redistricting or districting. So as are most of the school districts and a number of special districts. So it'll be a pretty broad-based meeting.
Thank you.
And it may generate more interest in the public meetings that focus down just on the city election as well.
Yep.
Anything else on behalf of the commissioners?
You know, I was taking notes, but I didn't get the complete website. She asked if the notice of meetings could be listed on the Santa Barbara, and what was the rest of that? What was the website?
The website and the city calendar. And I wasn't entirely certain what that meant. I think Mr. Colon understands it.
Okay.
I understood the references to the city news and accessing the broadcast. I think I'm sure it's easily findable. It was LWV something.org.
I got it. lwvsantabarbara.org.
Yeah, I got that part.
Yeah, that's the publicity for this upcoming workshop they're conducting. The only hesitation I have is that ordinarily those are somewhat political events and we typically wouldn't show up, but in this virtual world, if there's a way to lurk, I'll do it.
I somehow had the impression that she felt something about our redistricting commission meetings should be more clearly put on the city's website rather than
She
her asking us.
did.
Yeah.
She did, and they were twofold. One, there is something called City News, which is a rolling banner on the city webpage that highlights given events. And then secondly, the path to finding this broadcast could be more convenient. And that's
Okay.
we have, I should mention that we have met with our IT department as well as with national demographics. The back end of all of this is not overwhelming, but not trivial either. So there's a process going on to create this website that will be aired over the next month and a half.
Anything else on behalf of the commissioners?
No.
No, thank you.
Anything else the city and our council and experts need us to discuss today?
Well, I do have one question because there was a caveat that while it's certainly better to appear in person, that based on whatever happens with COVID and whether the governor is going to make additional orders at future meetings. And in fact, the budget that you addressed has the two numbers, right? Whether it's in person or whether it's virtual. Will we get some advance notice with regard to the district hearings, whether there may be a need to convert to virtual?
Yes, definitely, Your Honor. We will make sure that everyone is kept as up to date as possible regarding any changes in the format of the hearings.
Thank you.
Okay. It's relatively convenient for me, but it's a significantly longer drive for the other commissioners to get up to the city. So Good. All right, anything else that the city needs us to discuss? All right.
No, thank you.
Thank you for all the information. I've been reading it simultaneously with listening to you, but I will give it the full read. And if I have any questions that come to my mind, I'll send around an email with them. I'm sure my other commissioners have covered them, but I will be sure to read it today. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second? Judge White? I don't think I can second motions.
Second, sorry.
Anyone opposed? I only remain silent, which is really not my natural state of being because I don't think I can second motions. If no one's opposed, we will adjourn with our thanks, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone virtually, apparently on the 20th of September. And if we have any further questions in between, we'll let you know, and I'm sure hear immediately back from you. Thank you for all your hard work. It shows. It all shows. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
yes.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.